welcome back, Joystick Justice League, to part 3 of Breaking News 004, and we've covered a whole gamut of stuff. This is more like a cornucopia of genres for part 3. The first one we're going to talk about here, one that got you immediately excited. I think this is your favorite on the list so far, and I'm really peaked about it too. It's called Counterspy. So this one's coming out for PS4, PS3, Vita, and iOS. So if you're not a Sony fan, you won't be left out in the cold. You can play this on your iPhone or your iPad. So Joe, tell us why you are so excited about Counterspy.
Immediately, the art style, the feel, the look immediately remind me from these old sci-fi, these old spy kind of movies like that. Just the whole look and the feel. And basically, you're going on these spy missions, trying to prevent a war between the U.S. and the Russians.
Yeah, so it's set in the Cold War in like the 50s and 60s, which is awesome. And you don't see too much of that, and it speaks to what's happening today, really.
Yep. And this is a developer based out of San Francisco. This is their first game. And,
Dynamighty.
And right out of the gate, I mean, it looks so cool. And there's even some kind of cross-play kind of going on here with the mobile and the console.
Yeah, it's no mistake that this is coming out on all PlayStation platforms, because this is meant as one of those PlayStation ecosystem type of games where not only you can cross-play between your platformers, so you can start your game on PS4, carry over your Vita or even your smartphone, but also it's got this Dark Souls vibe of being able to collect intel and leave it for other players within that ecosystem using your device, so kind of helping out other players and leaving hints like you would in like Dark Souls when you leave the bloodstains or the notes. So this game immediately kind of reminds me of like this new 2.5D style that's getting really popular now, especially with the Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate that came out for Vita and is also coming out for 360 and PS3 awesomely. So tell us a bit about the play mechanics of this, Joe. So you got 2D, you got some 3D here.
What's really cool is that it's very seamlessly blending, going from your traditional shooting kind of platform game into the third-person shooting mechanics.
Yeah,
it's blending very seamlessly. They're doing it in a very seamless way.
Yeah, so it's like, for a little bit you might think you're playing like Rolling Thunder or like Golgo 13, but all of a sudden you take cover and then boom, it's over the shoulder 3D and you're doing like duck and cover shoot mechanics. So, or even just like trying to like scope out the environment from a new perspective. So really, like again, it's a platformer, but it's immersive. Like it feels like bigger than it actually is.
It's combining two very cool elements, and even when you go into that third-person shooting perspective, once you target your enemy, you're also picking where you're gonna shoot on.
Yeah, so we're calling Fallout 3. Yeah. The idea that when you lock onto an enemy, you can pick the limb that you're going for, and that because this is a time-based game, so you can't fuck around in this game. You have to make quick decisions, disarm the bomb, or else the doomsday clock is going to run out and the world's going to explode.
That's right. So there's a real sense of urgency here. So
yeah, but
messing around.
Yeah, and it's got that cool kind of 60s, Austin Powers-ish vibe. Very colorful, like you said, like a very cool graphic style. I'm totally excited about this one, coming from Dynamighty for the PlayStation ecosystem, but also for iOS. And moving on to RPGs, one that's got probably me the most excited on the list. This one is called Hyper Light Drifter from Heart Machine, indie developer, coming out sometime this year. This one's coming out for tons of platforms: PC, Mac, Linux, PS4, Xbox One, Wii U, Vita, and even the old Ouya gets a day of light with this one. So Hyper Light Drifter, Joe, a lot of influences going on in this game. What struck you immediately about this game when you saw the preview?
First off, before I go into that part of it, this game was a Kickstarter project.
Yes.
And their original goal was $27,000.
Yep.
To get this going.
How much did they make?
$600,000. I mean, this game is getting a tremendous amount of support from people online, and rightfully so. I mean, this game, it looks. There's elements of Zelda. There's elements of Bastion, Dark Souls, Diablo. I mean, there's a ton going on here. It has that nice old school look. This game is just too cool.
There's a lot of things that Heart Machine did right. Like, first of all, when we went to that Kickstarter page, they had everything laid out in detail, but just very well placed. Like they had like moving GIFs on the screen, so if you didn't want to click on a video, you could still see something in action. They really broke this down. They have a very clear focus in what seems like an unclear game. I mean, it doesn't really have a traditional story. I mean, there are people that you can talk to, but really, this is going back to the hardcore, like old school, like dungeon crawler days where it didn't hold your hand and it's just like it's tough as fuck. So really, it does feel like kind of like Diablo meets Dark Souls, but with this weird, like I can't even, I don't even know what's going on. Like there's just so much originality in terms of like aliens, mechs.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff, and I think because this the story is a little bit you can't really quite tell. I think each person is going to kind of project their own kind of personality into the character. I think you can really get invested, and I think everybody's going to kind of have like a unique kind of experience. Like I said, where you're going to kind of sort of like when you read a book. I think everybody that reads a book kind of gets a different kind of experience from it, and I think that we're going to see that in this game
because it's the atmosphere, Joe. This game plays heavily on atmosphere, upon like a very foreboding, brooding soundtrack. You know, very kind of like trippy visuals and a melding of imagery. Like again, you have like fantasy-based steampunk here, aliens and UFOs, undead, and just this brutal, not only brutal action, like in terms of like multiple enemies on screen, you know, rushing around the battlefield trying to figure out how to beat it, but also puzzle platforming elements too, which brings the Zelda Link to the Past influence here. The fact that, you know, you've got to hit platforms in the right way while dodging enemies. There's a lot going on. I can see this being a really big streaming classic.
And even going into towns and possibly, you know, talking to other villagers, which maybe there'll be quests to do. I mean, it remains to be seen with this game.
But just like Dark Souls, where they only give you enough to keep you going, the dialogue's very light. The emphasis again is on your experience and the action and just the devastating stuff that's going on. This is not a nice game. The developer, as we're saying, this game will be mean to you. It's going to be hardcore. Yep. So yeah, somewhere in 2014 for a whole bevy of platforms. That's Hyper Light Drifter. We were talking about like kind of political stuff prior when we were talking about Counterspy in relation to the Cold War. Let's go back into that arena for a sec. You turned me on to this one. This one's called Riot, from Team Riot, and I can see this game getting into a whole mess of controversy, Joe.
Yeah, this is going to be PC, possibly Mac and portable devices and Ouya. This is essentially a Riot simulator.
Yes.
Done in this kind of old LucasArts kind of style.
Pixel art, you know, so not too brutally realistic, keeping in the video game realm, but based on true events.
Based on true events.
Actual, real riots that happened in Egypt, that happened in Italy. This developer is actually a very poor developer at Italy who actually had to go to Kickstarter because they didn't have the resources and the funding to get this done. And also, I mean, come on, like this is a very politically toxic game. I mean, you could get in a lot of trouble for this thing. I can already see like the conspiracy theorists saying, "Oh, this is promoting riots," and I mean, I can't argue against that. I mean, really, they want you to know about human struggle. I think the whole point of this game is not only to have fun simulating a riot and either playing the police or the rioters, but learning a little bit about why these happen, because these are historically accurate. Yeah. You're gonna see politicians talking, journalists reporting on this. This isn't just about, you know, bloodshed. This is about learning about history.
Yeah, this is just, it's a very unique premise, and almost kind of mirroring what this developer is kind of going through in the area that they're in.
This is based on personal experience, like so, and that's part of their funding. Like they said that the more funding we get, like you can unlock new riots in this game, and not only that, create your own. And then the community actually decides if this is a good riot based on historical accuracy, fun. But that was part of their drive in getting funding, is that they can actually go to Egypt and to Spain and to Greece and actually, you know, see what's going on with these riots firsthand, talk to the rioters, to the police, experience the devastation, and bring that experience to a game. Wow, I don't see anything like this is like, games have gotten into political territory, you know, with BioShock, but I don't see anything going this hardcore, Joe. I can almost see this game getting banned.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope not.
This has a tremendous amount of potential and a real, you know, it's so unique. You know, it's you know, and it could be a real kind of you know, when it comes to freedom of speech. I think this is kind of an important game, actually.
It's not surprising, Joe. I mean, we're as more information comes out, there's another game called This War Is Mine, which we're going to be featuring later on once there's more gameplay footage coming out of this anti-war, anti-establishment sentiment that's really coming out. And that's the thing, man. Like, these people know that the video game platform is a tremendous medium to express these unpopular political ideas and to really create change. So I'm really interested to see what's going to be happening. I'm going to be following this one very closely. That's coming out somewhere in 2014 for PC, iOS, iPhone, Android, and Ouya. So take a look for that one. Switching over, on a less serious note now, getting into some more strategy, but on a lighter note. One that I think is going to make some big waves in the light of the SimCity debacle. This one's called Tropico 5. So the 5th installment in a long-running PC series throughout the 2000s from Haemimont Games and Kalypso Media, somewhere in 2014 for PC, Mac, Linux, PS4, but only the 360, not the Xbox One.
An interesting thing that the fact PS4 but no PS3. And then on the Xbox side, no Xbox One, but the 360. But I mean, that's beside the point. I mean,
that could change.
I mean, that's just a really cool city builder game. I mean, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but you're going over starting from in the 19th century and going all the way up to the modern day and then into the near and present future.
Very ambitious game, Joe. I mean, this is very ambitious. You play El Presidente, and like you say, you're in the Caribbean. It's a city builder that dynamically changes from decade to decade, starting in the 19th century, going to the 21st century. But not only you're building your city and changing it over the course of decades, like the Roaring 20s, the Great Depression 30s, and you will deal with the Depression. You will deal with World War I and World War II. Your involvement in the Cold War. This game has so many angles, so much historical accuracy, Joe. I mean, look at the costumes. Look at the flop dresses they're wearing in the 1920s, like the cars that change from decade to decade. There's a lot of detail in this game, really, and that's why I'm wondering how this is going to run on the 360. This really seems like a next-gen game. Yeah,
it definitely. He's even going to have multiple. For when it comes to online multiplayer, up to four-player multiplayer.
Another thing that's a first for a series. Talk a bit more about that. We have the 4-player multiplayer, but they didn't really get into how that's going to work. I think what's probably going to happen is you're going to maybe have your own district or your own constituency or something like that. But I think this is really going to pick up where SimCity failed. We didn't see a really good city builder game. The closest on the 7th generation, I think the closest thing we got was Civilization Revolution.
Yeah.
But really, there's no other competition. I mean, SimCity, they're trying to go offline now, build the offline mode. But really, SimCity is great for what it is, but it doesn't have the historical ambitions, the wide-reaching ambitions that Tropico 5 has.
Yeah. No, this has the potential, I think, to be to really kind of knock. SimCity. I mean, it's still going to be popular. But I mean, this has a real chance and the opportunity to kind of dethrone and become the choice when it comes to these civilization building kind of games.
I think why, because it's not requiring a persistent online. It's a contained experience that takes place over a couple of centuries. Yes, it does have the multiplayer component to it, but I think it's going back to what we expected from classic city builders, where you could just build this massive empire and not be limited to like this plot of land like you were with the SimCity reboot last January. So I think this could make some noise again with very little competition that I see coming, especially on next-gen consoles. I think this could really take off.
I think it's going to be definitely your choice when we're looking for that kind of game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a big long list of stuff to look forward to. The list never ends. We have more to talk about next. Let's end off the show as we always do with what we're playing this week. So Joe, why don't you start us off? What are you playing right now? What's driving you nuts?
Well, number one for me, I've been playing a lot, and I picked this game up a while ago, but didn't quite get into it, and started to get into it. And this was a game that I learned about from an indie game movie, and that is Fez.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I feel fish.
Now, when you play this game, I mean immediately, just beautiful pixel. This game I think really kind of embodies a little bit of what he went through as a developer in developing this game. Like almost like he wanted to create a place for himself to relax and get away from kind of what he was going through personally.
Yeah, you know what? You mentioned the word relax, Joe. Like this game really isn't a hardcore platformer at all. It's a game that's meant to be savored, played like in a zen-like state.
He described it in his own words. It's like a stop and smell the roses kind of game.
It's a cubist painting come to life. So just incredible mechanics. Just I haven't seen this too often and work on a really great level where you can spin the world, see new perspectives. It's been done in other games, but he really nailed that idea of really expanding this 2D world into the planes you can't see.
And it really adds to like when you spin things around in a different perspective, and you can see the paths to go. You know, I mean, it takes that side-scrolling platformer and literally spins it. You know, and you know, for a game developed by just by two guys, you know, just Phil and Renaud, the programmer, you can definitely see now that I started playing this of why it took so long to do. I mean, this is a very ambitious game for just two guys to take on.
Yeah, and mechanically, even though it looks like a minimalist game, I mean, I recently started playing the beefed up PS4 version that runs at 1080p and 60 frames. You need that 60 frames. Like this game is constantly moving, and like when I was playing on my crappy PC, the stutter of running at 30 frames a second, it was a little jarring, whereas it lends that zen-like quality where you can play it smoothly and see the clean pixels and just that sense of discovery that just never ends. And also just thinking outside the box, you know, like jumping between different dimensions and restructuring the world to the way it makes sense. Fantastic game. You know, you got to pick this up on Steam, PS4, 360, Mac. I mean, it's PS3. Yeah, it is on PS3 now and Vita as well. Yep. In terms of a sequel, really nothing concrete. The thing is with the Fez version for PS4, it actually was farmed out to a Spanish developer, so I don't think Phil Fish completely did that thing. I'm not sure if this means that he's working on Fez 2. I hope he is. I hope this is a way. By now that Fez is on the PlayStation platforms, I think it's a way for him to test out whether maybe he has some more goodwill after his little burnout.
I think it may be a good if he is working on Fez 2, and if he is, it's being kept a really good secret.
Shh, don't say anything. Don't get into Twitter battles. And don't hype it. Just surprise us.
It's a very smart move if he's doing so, because that will eliminate a lot of the problems that he went through originally. Keep it a secret and wait until you're closer to release. That way, you know, you're not promise. You don't keep saying, "Oh,
jinxing yourself with fake hype." And I think that's what he ran into before. He told too many people about this and ran into too many problems over the development process and got delayed. Again, not a perfect game, but something that like just shows some sort of genius that when he really contains that creative spirit, he's really gonna. I think if he comes back to the industry, he's really gonna just drop a big bomb on us.
Yep.
So that you're playing Fez. What else are you playing right now?
Okay, my next game. I mean, this
that
game
we're both playing actually.
It's it's got a tremendous amount of buzz.
Mixed in a sense. I mean, overall positive.
Yep. And of course, I'm talking about South Park Stick of Truth.
Woohoo! All right, finally, the long-awaited and delayed South Park Stick of Truth. So, Joe, it's not a cheap game. Is this worth the price of admission, Joe?
I would say if you are a South Park fan, I would say absolutely. I mean, this is you are literally playing through what I would say is probably the second half of season 18 of South Park. Especially with this, I mean, it looks and feels exactly like the show. There are tons. If you're a South Park fan, you will run into a ton of references, and
from all seasons.
And you want to talk about pushing the boundaries of humor and good taste. This game has it in spades.
Forget the show. Forget the movies. Forget what they were allowed to get away with on TV. You're going to see some stuff that's really going to make your jaw drop in this, and just again pushing the boundaries of good taste.
We want to mention a few of them.
Wow, how about the fact that the last level is played inside Mr. Slave's asshole with like dry cum walls and a vibrator that makes him go, oh, Jesus Christ, or what was another?
The infamous anal probing on this spaceship.
Oh, Randy taking the anal probing and liking it. Yeah. Just funny, Joe. I mean, you gotta think, man, this was ambitious. A 10-hour game that is, I finished it, that is funny for 10 hours.
Yep.
That is hard to do, man.
It's hard to keep you
keep you in the game.
And then this is just finally, I mean, just a South Park game that does the show justice and then some. I mean, we both had really high expectations for this, and boy, did they meet and exceed those in my opinion.
Yeah, man. I mean, I wouldn't say it's as like political and topical as the show is. It's more about like it's lampooning the idea of childhood and play. Like you really feel like you're playing swords and sorcerers in your backyard again. Like the way they especially when you defeat an enemy and you see them playing dead on the ground, you nudge them, they go ow, like they're still alive. Like I'm playing dead, moron. You know, like that's all those little things that come together. And then you got the references. You got Al Gore doing the man bear pig. You got Tom Cruise trapped in the closet. We're spoiling things left, right, and center. But even if I told you these things, there's so much other things just to discover. Looting chests and finding a Faith Plus One CD or a copy of The Pooh That Took a Pee. There's just references everywhere. Even if the story isn't making you laugh, you're laughing at the reference and the recollection.
You know what's so cool about the South Park humor is that yes, it is very edgy and borderline offensive sometimes. I mean, but it's in my opinion, it's just very clever, very well timed. You know, and like even like one of my favorite parts of this game actually was right at the beginning when you meet Cartman and try to join his little band, and he asks you what your name is, okay? And then you type in whatever, right? And then, so would you like us to call you douchebag? And you can choose to say yes or no. He's like, are you sure you would like to be called douchebag? And then even if you say no, he's like, okay, douchebag. You know, like it's just this clever, well-timed.
It never wastes a moment. I mean, and just when you think it's done all of its bag of tricks, boom, you end up in Canada and you're in 16-bit land, which is fucking hilarious. Just the fact that like Canada's not as advanced as the U.S., so it has to be drawn in retro pixel art, and this is a direct homage to like Final Fantasy. And the fact that you could exchange U.S. for Canadian currency.
Yeah, and even the characters. Like if you ever watched South Park, or if you haven't, I'll tell you that the Canadians are depicted as like it's the best way I could describe.
Flat-jawed.
Like their head is just like it's like two bowls kind of stacked open end on top of each other, and they just kind of move around. I guess like this is what they're portraying as
like the map. You have Winnipeg like 2 steps away from like
walking
Ontario. Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, there's something for everybody. Even if you're not a South Park fan, I think if you have a sense of humor, you're gonna find something to like in this. Okay, but yeah, that's fine. Humor, South Park references aside, how does this play as a game, Joe?
It plays awesome as a game. This is just a solid turn-based strategy or role-playing game,
like Mario RPG.
But you can add to yourself. You can level up and give yourself abilities. You can literally have an ability in an attack where you cup your fart and throw it at the people. You know, it's taking those funny elements and incorporating them into your attacks.
Yeah, and it has that Mario RPG time-based element where like a flash happens on the screen. If you hit your attack button, you get that extra attack power, or you can defend yourself by hitting the button at the right time. You've got spells you can cast. You've got special abilities. You can rotate through all your friends who have their own special abilities in different classes depending on the situation. So maybe you're fighting the Nazi zombies, which never gets old. That's hilarious. But you're fighting the Nazi zombies, so you know you need to equip Butters, who's a paladin who's got holy power. Or maybe there's an enemy that's more susceptible to gross out, so you equip Kenny, the princess, who goes in and shows him his tits, his little raisins. So much funny shit going on, but gameplay wise, it works. Like it's okay. Here's the thing. Let's address a lot of the reasons why this game was shat on. Like again, overall, great Metacritic score. People said that this was an RPG light and it wasn't long enough. It wasn't as long as your traditional RPG, and it wasn't going to be as hard. I would differ. I think it finds a nice middle ground.
Yes.
And the reason for this, Joe, is that you got to remember, man, South Park fans, not all of them are hardcore RPG players and will understand how to get through it. I think there's already enough that could go over the average person's head. I think the combat and the gameplay is just at that right level to make it accessible, but still, for the hardcore RPG player, there's enough depth in terms of your skill tree.
Yeah, they got to a real nice balance there, and I think they like I said, they reached just I think almost a perfect kind of a middle ground there.
Yep.
Satisfy both types.
Simple but depth. Like you can play it simply, but it's not. And there's a lot of upgrades here. There's a lot of different costumes you can get with different abilities. Lots of stickers you can add to your weapons that change the different powers you have. There's enough to get a really truly customized experience out of this. Yeah, maybe I would like to see a little bit more variation among the classes you can choose, but like you said, they're trying to keep this simple enough that a mainstream audience can latch onto this, but complex enough that none of us will feel like we've been shortchanged. And I don't think we're shortchanged at all. In terms of length too, when you're going for comedy, man, you can't just milk it and make it a 30-hour game when when it feels like 10. I think the length was right.
It feels my only regret, but I would like to have seen possibly this would have been maybe a 2-player.
Yeah,
online I think would have been a little too much. I would have liked to have seen a 2-player co-op.
Yeah, it's actually you play as the buddy or something. But that's the thing. I don't think that this might be. I don't think this is the last game. I think that this was.
They've created essentially their own game studio.
They finally got it right. Yeah, Matt and Trey finally got it right. We suffered through all the crappy South Park games that they admitted they weren't very involved with. Okay, so that's why they suck. This one was direct involvement. You feel it all over the game. And the other thing I gotta say too before we wrap up South Park is the fact that like the ending, I'm not gonna give it away, but very rarely does a game get that epic ending and leave you satisfied, but maybe wanting at least leaving it open for a sequel. The ending to this, the final battle is fucking hilarious. It's epic. It just ties it all together beautifully and leaves room for a possible sequel, which I really want to see come out on PS4 and Xbox One.
Absolutely.
So South Park is something I just finished. You've been playing. Definitely recommend it. It's $64.99 in Canada, $59.99. But like I said, if you're worried that it's not as long as Skyrim or it's not complex enough, you're wrong. It's just perfect. Even when you beat this game, I can guarantee if you're a fan, you'll go back and play it again the next year and the year after that. This is going to be a yearly play for me probably because it's just so well done. To wrap up something I've also been playing, Towerfall Ascension, which was out, which was actually the main game for the Ubisoft for a while, when it was known as Towerfall. Got a PS4 and PC upgrade known as Towerfall Ascension, Joe. Man, I wasn't sure about this game. Like we talked about it on Breaking News, but then I saw the Metacritic score. I'm like, whoa, 91% Metacritic score for this little one-screen pixel art multiplayer game. Joe, like this game is addictive as hell.
Yeah, we've been streaming this on Twitch a little bit, and I've been watching it, and I've had a chance to actually play it. But I mean, it's been just fun to watch.
It's so simple, kind of like what we were talking about with Secret Ponchos, but it just works. Not only as a single-player game to kind of show off how twitchy you can be, like the control is beautiful on this game. It's simple, but it works. I love that you can just get to where you need to be at the right moment and create these beautiful victories.
I love the element of where your attack is mainly a bow and arrow, but you have to, and this adds to the strategy, is that you have a little bit, I think it's about 4 or 5,
yeah.
And then as you shoot them, they get stuck into the environment, or maybe even if you kill somebody, they get kind of pinned up against a wall or something. You have to go back and collect those arrows again.
Or else you'll be out of ammo.
Yeah, you'll just be hopping around going, you know?
So, and that's the thing, there's so many ways to strategize against this. You can shoot in all different directions, but you can also warp to different parts of the screen, like in Pac-Man, by, say, jumping through the bottom of the screen, you'll end up to the top. So, again, all these, when you're playing, I haven't played multiplayer yet. That's what I'm waiting to do yet. That's why I haven't reviewed it yet, but when you're you can't play this online, unfortunately, but when you're playing local multiplayer, especially 4 people, there's so much to think about. It's not just about who you're going to shoot next, but who's above me, who's below me. What am I going to do when I run out of arrows and the arrows are on the other side of the screen? Am I going to jump through the ceiling, come out on top, bump the guy on the head? Just fast, frenetic. I understand why this is online, because it's so quick and twitchy.
There's a wide variety of enemy types on it too. It's just a lot to keep you on your toes, and it's just it's quick pace, and it's just. We were originally talking about this game. People are like Smash Brothers. People who like just these head-to-head kind of games, and it works on just so many different levels, and it's just too cool.
There's always that one really simple party game that just strikes a chord. And I remember back in like the 4th generation, it was Bomberman. Remember that? Like how big Bomberman was. It was never really big, but people just knew and they liked to play it. That's the thing, when I stream this, people are like, whoa, what is this game? It's so cool. And you would never think people would say that just from taking 2 seconds. Look at, it's like an old looking RPG.
It's such a simple idea, but I mean, just fleshed out, and I mean, just a brilliant execution of this game.
Yeah, and it all comes down to just flawless controls. And like I said, I mean, it's been levied that this can't be done online because the bandwidth can't support the latency and stuff. I challenge you guys, do a sequel with online. That thing will explode. So, Towerfall Ascension, it's on PS4 now and PC, also on Ouya. You gotta grab this game if you have, but you need people you can play with. So if you're a person who plays only online, you'll have some fun with the campaign, you'll probably get sick of it. It's really the local couch co-op that's gonna bring that game home for you and keep it playing over and over again. So wow, that's been a pretty jam-packed episode of Breaking News, episode 4. Stay tuned for more content as always. You know, whether it's Rage Quitters, Joyce's Justice League, Battle Arena. We got the ever venerable roundtable episodes. We recently did one on virtual reality. Are we ready for it yet? In light of like Facebook's purchase of Oculus Rift and the reveal of Project Morpheus on Sony's side. Also, Joe, we just did another roundtable on stereotypes.
And stereotypes, that was a very interesting one, and go check that out too, guys. We really touch a lot of different things and really try and break down these stereotypes that threaten to kind of tear this industry apart.
Well, it was like taking like a South Park approach, like just like with South Park's humor, like you were saying, it may be crude, but it also holds up a mirror to society, and that's why South Park's important. I think this podcast was a lighthearted, but at the same time serious attempt to hold up a mirror to the gaming community and really to try to encourage us all to bond together rather than keep fighting each other over stupid consoles and multinational corporations that really don't give a fuck about us at the end of the day. But anyway, I'm Mike Frucios.
I'm Joe Morin.
Make sure you check out Joe's blog at joemorin.blogspot.ca. He recently did one on cinematic games. I have mine at alarmbellnetwork.wordpress.com. And you can catch us live gaming on twitch.tv/24bit heroes. Thanks for watching, guys, and you have a great day.
Peace.
Game on.
Game
Peace.
on, guys. Choke and puke, man.
Okay. Move over a bit. Okay.
Get away from me. I always remember that from Meat Boy when you're playing. Like, get away from me!
Get away from me!
Like, who's here?
Fuck. Alright.